Hello everybody and welcome to today's video. I am a big fan of Koei Tecmo Warriors property. I think just about everybody that follows me on this channel knows that by now. I am a big time fan. I'm the guy that loves Dynasty Warriors 9, gave it 5 out of 5 stars, and yes, I still stand by that. I do still love Dynasty Warriors 9. I play every single one in the extended property that Koei Tecmo puts out there. And so, of course, I've been really looking forward to Hyrule Warriors 2, otherwise known as Age of Calamity, which comes out in a couple of weeks now. So, while I can only talk about the first 2 chapters of the game, I am going to say this at this preview stage. I absolutely love this game, and I'm pretty sure, unless things go dramatically downwards very quickly, my overall impression of the game is not going to change. I think this is amazing. Now, I can't actually show much footage from the game because even within the first 2 chapters, there are a bunch of embargo conditions, and Nintendo being Nintendo, I'm not sure I entirely understand them, so I'm playing it really safe here. So what you're seeing is just a very limited cross-section of what you play in the first 2 chapters. But I did want to talk about this game because this one's actually more momentous than I think a lot of people realize. It's really rare for Nintendo to allow third-party access to its Zelda franchise at all. It's a pretty valuable franchise to the company, of course, and they want to protect it. However, Koei Tecmo apparently did such a good job with the first Hyrule Warriors that Nintendo has actually allowed them to make a new game that not only is a Zelda game, but it actually also follows along with the narrative canon. A couple of third-party Zelda games have not been part of the canon. This one is, and as far as I'm aware, this is the first third-party Nintendo game, it was third-party Zelda game in a long time to actually be part of the Zelda canon. So that's a pretty huge thing and definitely worth talking about. Now, given that I never actually got off the introductory plateau of Zelda Breath of the Wild, and before anybody yells at me for that, I just didn't review it for DDNet, and I never found the time since. I have a copy, I do want to play it at some stage, so don't yell at me Zelda fans, I just haven't got around to it yet. But anyway, putting that aside, the narrative in Age of Calamity means less to me than it will to people who played the original game, of course, the Breath of the Wild. But based on the quality of the cutscenes and the extended narrative sequences, and the overall perception that this is really pushing a new Zelda lore onto players, I'm pretty secure in making a guess that this is going to be well received by the faithful in terms of the narrative. I think Koei Tecmo has done a good job, it's well produced, it's well performed, and I think it's going to go down well with the faithful, like I said. For others like myself, who are perhaps not as familiar with Breath of the Wild, I want to say that you don't need to worry about that before jumping into this thing. The action is very familiar Warriors stuff, and the narrative is cohesive as a standalone thing. So if you are a fan of Warriors games, and that's how you're coming into this one, you don't need to worry about not necessarily understanding the story, it's all there. There's a good sense of culture and lore to the game, which does make me want to pick up Breath of the Wild all over again and try and actually find time for it this time around. But even if you're not usually a Zelda fan, and this game hasn't otherwise tempted you to play Breath of the Wild, there are a couple of things that I think you'll like in this one. I think the action is really top-notch quality, even by Warriors standards. The boss battles, which I can't show on the footage, but are very enjoyable, are a real highlight within the game. And there's some really expansive, interesting level design for the main story missions. Generally speaking, people judge the quality of a Warriors game by how effective they are at conveying a sense of combat flow and epic scope. Even if they never actually vocalize as much in their reviews or whatever, when people talk about these games, the line between what people see as a good and bad Warriors game is always that. That is the core that I've kind of narrowed it down to. Good Warriors games have an ebb and flow to them in the terms of the battle map, challenging you to make quick decisions about where you're going to be needed most on the battle map at any point in time, and switching between defending objectives and taking the fight back to the enemy at the right moment. When these Warriors games really sing, they are hugely dynamic, exciting experiences for that reason. And really, that's what Age of Calamity achieves, and that's why I think it's going to be recognized as a very good Warriors game. You're able to play as a couple of different heroes on the battlefield at a time, and you can quickly command the ones that you're not in control in to place them on the map as you need to. This is a feature that we've seen in some other Warriors games. It's implemented in here and it's very seamless and easy to do. For the most part, your AI allies only hold their own against whatever opponents you've thrown them against, but they do stop the AI or the opponent's AI from making progress in their objectives. So for example, if you send one of your heroes to block an enemy general or leader, then they're just going to stay there in a state of stasis until you are ready to take control and really take the fight back and defeat that enemy. So what it does let you do, it frees you up to do whatever you are currently focused on, whether that's capturing an objective or defending an area, and then just seamlessly swap between characters when you're ready to refocus onto another part of the battlefield. It's a dynamic, very lightly tactical experience, but an engagingly tactical experience, and it does put you in control of the action while giving you the sense that there is a battle raging on all around you at the same time, which is really important to a Warriors game. It's a difficult line to balance, and I think Koei Tecmo has taken a lot of time over the years trying to refine this, but if you feel like the entire battle is just waiting on you, then it doesn't have that epic scope that they really want in these kinds of perceptions of these mass battles that go on. On the other hand, if the game goes on too aggressively, regardless of what you're doing, it can feel like you don't have much control over the action at all. So striking a good balance between those two has been really important, and Age of Calamity really shows just how refined Koei Tecmo has been able to become in doing that with its own games. Now, the other big bugbear, I guess, in the room is that there don't seem to be as many heroes in this game as some other Warriors titles. And I can't talk about all of them because, again, embargo conditions and whatever. But Hyrule Warriors does make up for that by making each of the heroes feel very, very different to one another to control. It's not just a matter of some heroes being quicker than others or some having better reach with their attacks. In this case, some heroes, like Zelda herself, have a very complex toolbox of tricks that will take some time to master, and it involves a blend of timing, of making sure that you're using the right attack for the right situation, and if you get in control of all of that, you can cause massive damage, but if you don't, if you're not that familiar with the character, then it can become quite a frustrating character to use. Zelda is one of those ones that's not really a generalist, but if you are in control of the combat system, you will have a great time with her. Other characters like Link are obviously a lot more straightforward, and once again, because you're actually able to control a couple of different heroes on the battlefield at a time, it's not a big deal if you find one of them frustrating. You can just use the other characters instead. But then there are other heroes that you can also control. Some have, for example, a charge meter, which can run out if you're not paying attention to it, and then you need to wait for it to recharge, which in the heat of battle can be a problem. But again, they do a lot of damage with that attack while it's still charged. And with each of these characters, you'll find their own little nuances and quirks, which make them both interesting to use and something to master. So there is certainly the sense with these characters that you are definitely going to get better with them the more you play with them, which is very important for a Warriors game, a Koei Tecmo Warriors game. Often Koei Tecmo Warriors games are criticised for all the characters fighting in the same way, which renders the large rosters largely pointless. There are times where you've had over 100 characters to choose between, but they all feel basically the same, which can be tiring in terms of the variety. It can feel like there isn't that much variety there. Whereas with Age of Calamity, it neatly sidesteps that issue. There might not be that many characters to control, but that's probably just as well, as a significant portion of the people that play this game won't normally play Warriors games, and Koei Tecmo has done the right thing by making sure that each character feels different, I feel. The one question mark I have at this stage is the map system, where you choose battles and other activities from an array of icons that pop up on the overall map, which is going to be familiar to people that have played Breath of the Wild, of course. This system is almost a direct port of what they did with Warriors All-Stars, and that interests me because Warriors All-Stars was one of the least popular Warriors games. I loved it, of course. It had Dead or Alive Marie Rose in it, so of course I loved it. But it was a polarizing Warriors game, even within the Warriors faithful, and I wonder how people will respond to this element being brought into Age of Calamity. If nothing else, it is a static and rather uninspired way to do a level select screen, and given how much other creativity was in this game, that kind of surprised me. but I expected better, basically. But that's a very minor criticism in terms of a game that I am otherwise absolutely loving. So, can't talk much more about it right now at this stage. This is just a preview. Look forward to my review closer to release. In the meantime, please do mash that like and subscribe button. That way you will not miss any of my other videos as I put them out. And please do consider backing me on Patreon if you enjoy my work. Even $1 a month will go a long way to helping me to continue to grow this channel, and I really do appreciate and adore your support. Thank you very much for watching. Hope this was interesting. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Otherwise, we will see you at the next one.